someone from Pakistan ended up in a small town in Indiana. Being a nurse, I've worked with many physicians from different ethical backgrounds. This assignment has led me to learn more about a physician that I work closely with. Dr. Syed Hakim is who I interviewed, and I met him in the fall of 2012 when he came to work at our hospital. I heard him make many references to Pakistan and Europe in conversation, but really wasn't sure about his cultural background. Dr. Hakim was gracious enough to grant me this interview, and now I will share some information about him with you. Dr. Syed Hakim was born in Karachi, Pakistan on November 26, 1970. His ethnic background is Indian, and this is also stated in the Journal of Third World Studies that most of Pakistan are Indian. At age 7 until he was 14, he moved to England. His mother and father are currently deceased. He has 2 sisters and 1 brother, and he sees them frequently, usually once a year when he goes back to Pakistan to visit. Growing up, his goals were to be an astronomer. However, when he was in grade 10, he changed his mind. He had a teacher that talked with him and told him that his characteristics probably would not lead him in a career as an astronomer. His favorite childhood story was when he was 8 years old. While he was living in England, they went on a week-long field trip to Berlin, Germany. Then Berlin was still divided between East and West. They traveled from West Berlin into East Berlin. They were not allowed to take buses, they had to walk. And he said there was a stark contrast of how people lived in West Berlin versus East Berlin. While he was in East Berlin, he got to shake the hand of Brezhnev. He was the current Soviet Union leader, and also of Andropov, and he was a future leader of the Soviet Union. And that was his most favorite childhood story that he remembered, and he was very excited to share that with me. Education in his family was extremely important. In 9th grade, he had a teacher that made a big impact on him. His teacher's name was Fayez, and he was a math teacher. He said he changed the way he looked at his studies and cleared up his way of looking at a lot of things. Dr. Hakim went to medical school in Karachi, Pakistan, and then did his residency in New York. His religion is Islamic, and he does believe in God and an afterlife. When asked if he had ever been a victim of violence, he said that he had not. And if he ever felt excluded, he said when he was growing up in England, it was a multicultural society, but the British children really made him feel excluded. When asked about punctuality, he said that was important to him, but we both kind of laughed because he's usually late to work every day. In his culture, the elders are very respected, they're visited often, and their opinions are valued. They seek advice and wisdom from their elders. Common misconceptions of his culture, he said, since 9/11, that their culture are mistaken or associated with terrorism. Food habits for his culture, they do not eat pork. Their meats that they eat are beef, chicken, fish, seafood, and goat. Goat is very popular because it's low in fat. They like spicy foods and barbecue, and they drink black tea. And this type of food was talked about in an article about food and culture of Pakistan in the Canadian Social Science magazine. The important celebrations of his culture. This was also in a news article from Arabia called Pakistan Celebrates Eid. It's spelled E-I-D, and it's celebrated during lunar months, so it's different every year, but last year it was in the month of August. And they fast for 1 month from dawn to dusk, and then at the end of the month they have a large celebration. There is also another smaller festival that's called Eid also, and it dates back to Abraham's sacrifice of his son. And they traditionally sacrifice a lamb or a goat, and it's just a one-day celebration, and they like that a lot better because it's such a shorter time. They don't have the long days of fasting. Dr. Hakim said overall he is happy in the United States, but he would be happy anywhere, and says that he may someday return to Pakistan. He has had an interesting life residing in many countries. He seems to fit in well with our culture in America, and his career has been successful as a physician in the United States. A young boy from Pakistan who spent a large portion of his childhood in England found his way clear to America in a small town in Indiana. It makes the world seem much smaller, and that anything you desire can be possible if you strive to achieve your goals. Thank you for listening.